friends, it's Teresa and welcome back to my channel. In today's video, I'm going to be chatting about The Last Page by Katie Holt. This is an adult romance novel and I have a lot of thoughts. Let's just kind of jump right into the video. If you like this kind of videos from me, hit like, subscribe, and comment. And let's just kind of get into it. Okay, so this is going to be a spoiler-free video. I tried to make this as spoiler-free as possible. So if editing Therese feels like that's wrong, I will change the title of the video itself, but for the most part it should be spoiler free. Starting off with the synopsis, this follows Ella, who works at the bookstore called The Last Page. There she works pretty closely to the owner of the bookstore, and when he passes away from heart failure, I think was the reason, everyone in the crew thinks that she's going to end up with the bookstore. Like ownership's going to pass down to her. Instead, to everyone's surprise and annoyance, it gets passed down to the owner's grandson, Henry, who has different ideas of how to run the bookstore. Now Ella and Henry butt heads as to how the bookstore is supposed to be run, but it's until it's revealed that the bookstore is actually failing financially and needs help getting back up on its feet. And the two have to work together to save the store. Now, first thoughts, I love me a good book within a book to talk about like bookstores and books and all the things that are in there. I really enjoyed that aspect of any kind of book, truly. It's one of my favorite things in the world. I love a book with a bookstore in the setting. I feel like we've done really well. It could be a really fun setting for a book. So I was really excited to read this book and see what was going on. Not gonna lie though, I thought this was initially about an editor, like the last page, because I didn't read the synopsis when I got this as an arc from Nagala, so thank you so much for Nagala for giving me this arc. But I still had high hopes once I read the synopsis and realized what the book was about. Just some brief trigger warnings for y'all. There is talks of grief, there is talks of depression in this book, and there is death of a loved one, a very beloved loved one. So keep that in mind when you're picking up the book. Moving on to the things that I loved about this book, starting off with the characters. I feel the characters were just left off right off the page from this book. From the main two characters that we see whose perspectives are, which is Henry and Ella's perspectives, to the side characters, I feel that everyone just kind of had their own, like, they really grew from this book and really just, like, started off really, I don't know how to put it. I just enjoyed all the characters so much. I feel like it was such a fun read. With the characters, they all had different personalities and different like values and expectations. They all just really left off the page and it just felt very like cohesive and really just added texture and color to the story as well. The side characters really left off the page. I feel that they were very distinguishable from one another and really had their own storylines within the story that really just added some color and texture and depth to the actual overall plot of the story, and they just added some fun like brightness to the story of itself. I felt like Henry and Ella were really fun perspectives to follow the story along in, and it just felt like that these cast of characters were very cohesive and distinguishable from one another. I really could tell the difference between Mabel and Jack and Joey, and I think his name was Everett. I'm forgetting his other name, but for the most part, everyone felt of their own, and I really enjoyed seeing all these characters really come to life on the page. Moving on to the romance. The romance was so cute. I absolutely adored this romance. I thought that it was well developed. I felt like they really bounced off of one another really nicely personality-wise, and they felt like their chemistry was really organic. I loved that the reason why they couldn't be together felt also very organic to the story and didn't feel like it was because it was just added in there for, for plot's sake. They felt really organic to the story and really just like, this is why we can't be together and why we have to keep our distance, even though we were really falling for each other. And I really enjoyed seeing them go from butting heads to just like really falling for one another. Though I will admit there was a point where I wondered if this romance was even going to pan out because they butted heads so often, and Ella absolutely hated Henry. Absolutely hated Henry when the book started, and it just didn't feel like that there was going to be a romance. Like, that was my biggest concern. The romance was going to feel rushed or forced, but it happened really organically, and I feel like it really worked out in the end to how the books was supposed to happen. There is some sex scenes to the book, and I felt like the sex scenes were done really well, and that they really flowed with the beats of the story and really just added more to the story itself. And just really, it didn't feel like it added spice for the sake of spice, you know? I've had issues with the books where they feel like they just added sex to have sex in the book to feel like it's with the times, and it just doesn't feel that way with this one. I feel like it flowed organically with the beats of the story and just really added to their relationship and to the overall development of the relationship as well. Most importantly, there was no reason for a third act breakup. I feel like authors will just add a third act breakup out of nowhere, and typically it'll rely on miscommunication. But here that didn't happen, and it was really nice just to have a book where everything flowed really nicely and didn't have this weird random breakup in the middle that just kind of made things weirder or made things like just to add drama. I felt like this book was really organic in how everything planned out in the romance and the beats of the story, so I really enjoyed how that worked out. Moving on to the plot, I think the plot flowed really nicely with the storyline. I didn't see any issues with it being jumpy or being paced awkwardly. I feel like it just worked out really quite nicely with the storyline itself. It was the plot line for a rom-com, so it's going to follow the beats of a rom-com, or the plot will follow the beats of a rom-com, but I feel like it worked out for the best. It didn't feel forced, or like there were some underlying reasons why they couldn't, like, or too predictable in that sense, like you knew that they were going to get together. I thought that the saving of the store happened very organic. That's the big word of this video, of this book. It's just it's a very organic book and very organic with how everything happened. You didn't get a donor that happened to pop in last minute to save the bookstore. It just happened all very organically, and I feel like it worked out in the terms of the plot and how the characters wanted to save the bookstore itself. It didn't happen so like, oh yeah, we just got a random donor that saved us. We had to work really hard to get to where we wanted to be with the bookstore, which was a really nice change of pace from other stores that I've seen where there's like a failing business, and then I see the good savior comes in and like, I'm gonna buy the store from you and keep it exactly how it is. I just feel like that was the thing that I really enjoyed that wasn't lost in the book. It didn't have that moment there. Moving on to things I wanted to see more of, I wanted to see more of the relationship between Ella and the bookstore owner and Henry and his grandfather. I feel like we got some in the flashbacks, but I wanted to see more development. Maybe if I had written this book or wanted to edit this book, I would have had it start that it wasn't that the death happened on page, so that we could have seen more of that turmoil and that struggle between the characters, really just like grieving and trying to get back into their grief, or getting into their grief really, and learning how to be without this person that was so detrimental to their lives. I also wanted to see more of Henry's depression. It's not much of a spoiler, I guess mentioned pretty early on that he does struggle with depression and anxiety. I think it's just depression. But it was like, oh yeah, I struggle with depression, and that was about it. I feel like it's kind of thrown in there to not only to develop Henry a little bit more as a character, which is fine, but we have a character who just lost someone who was instrumental to his life, and he didn't have a relationship with him by the end of this person's life. So I wanted to see more of that like struggle in there, just to really flesh out Henry as a character a bit more. Moving on to my overall thoughts, despite my gripes with this book, which are very few and far in between, I give this book a 5 out of 5 stars. It was such a surprise read for me. I really enjoyed reading this book and just seeing the characters come to life and seeing how they saved the bookstore. It was such a fun read, and I didn't want to put it down, to be honest. It was such a good time, and I really enjoyed Ella and Henry, and I can't wait to see what more this author has to come up with, because I would think this is going to be a new autobiography for me if I really enjoyed her other previous book, which came out I think a couple years ago, which I'll have to read at some point. But that is it for my review on The Last Page by Katie Holt. If you like this kind of video from me, hit like, subscribe, and comment, and let me know what you guys thought about the book, if you have read it or not, or if you want to pick it up because it's a review. But until then, stay safe, and I'll see you in my next video. Bye!